All right, so welcome again to the software testing bootcamp. So we're looking at some of the stuff we looked at during our previous lessons, and I was talking about functional bugs. So you will be doing mostly a lot of you will come across a lot of functional bugs during your testing. But of course, remember we talked about performance bugs, where you check if the speed and if the software is performing the way it should, usability, security, compatibility. That is something as a software tester you want to take note of, but in most cases, you'll be dealing a lot with functional bugs. We looked at verification versus validation, quality assurance testing, what it actually means, and the key types of testing, very important. Regression tests, we've talked about this a lot, which is new features added to the software, and regression test is you just checking to make sure that the new change did not break something that was already working. Smoke test, also a lot of times to do this. It's a quick check to ensure that the software's critical function works the way it's supposed to. And a lot of these other types we talked about. And the SDLC, very important. The life cycle of development. And this was also where on this topic you guys had a lab session on. So let's just skim through. By the way, for those that submitted their work, good job. I'm really happy when you guys do that. It motivates me. It also shows me that you guys are really putting in quite an effort. Let me see. I think someone raised up their hand. Um, yeah, Justin, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I had wanted to ask. Sorry that it's more like last week question, but I just wanted to get clarification on it. Like the type of testing,
Yeah.
like we learned 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, for this lab test you gave to us, is it possible to like have which test to be performed at which phase? Because I guess not all the tests relate to all the phases, right? So I try to like figure out which type of tests actually relates to what type of what phase in the software development lifecycle. So it was difficult for me to like figure that out. I don't know if you can help to clarify at what point or at what phase do we have to apply a particular type of test.
Okay. So if I understand your question correctly, first of all, let's look at the lab test, right? What was it again? That was this. So the case study is get to know. Okay, this is about. Excuse me. This is about the online survey um, case study, and the task is for adding a registration page to the NCAT.com. Create an SDLC chart for each phase. Outline the activity a tester would perform. And your question is, what type of test do you have to perform at? You mean at each stage of the SDLC or for each stage of the types of
Yes,
testing?
yes, yes. At each stage of the SDLC.
Okay. So, um, all right, we're gonna look through it. I think we also talked about it, but technically, um, so there's a difference between performing the test itself, which is using the test that you have created, and preparing for the test. So, to give you a very simple answer, in the requirement analysis stage, in the design stage, in the code implementation stage, you as a tester, what you're just trying to do is to understand the requirements and write the test cases. So basically, from this top three stages, you're already busy writing your test cases because every stage of this makes you understand what the requirements are more. So because basically what you'll be doing here in like really is just trying to understand, okay, what do you want us to build actually? What is, oh, okay, this has to do like this. Okay, if you made a mistake formally in your test case, you go and correct it. Like, okay, actually now I understand it better. So before you get to the, by the time you get to stage 4, your test should be already ready. So this top 3 stages, you're just busy trying to understand the requirements and also writing your test cases. Now, of course, what you also see here, we see the word collaborate, coordinate, review requirements. All you're just busy doing is understanding, okay, what needs to be built. And then on the test phase, when you get to the first test phase, your test is already done because you already understand it. So and the developers are already done programming, so they just say, okay, now it's time to test. You understand? So that's why testers are very, very important in these three, especially this these 2 phases. You want to be very, very proactive with the. Let me go back to this chart with your business analyst and sometimes with the developers as well, because you want to be sure, okay, what is the registration page supposed to do? Okay, some, like, it might also be you didn't see something in the requirement. You'd be like, okay, what if the account is already existing? Let's assume that was not in the requirement. What if the account is already existing? Should the application allow someone to register with the same email twice? So who do you need to go to? The business analyst, and then probably you're also still here. You're either in one of these phases, because if you don't get the clear requirements, if you don't understand it, you might not write good tests because, yeah, maybe the analyst forgot to add it, or and also remember, you don't want to assume. So to keep it simply, you're just busy trying to understand what needs to be built. And we're going to do a real life situation of this, hopefully today, and we'll do a practice about it. Does that answer your question, maybe?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Thanks.
All right. So we're just gonna skim through the lab assignments to see what you guys did. So this is, I think, from Sumbo. Let's see what she has here. So requirement phase, analyze the requirements of the software, the registration page, the role of the tester, know what the specifications are, functions to be built, ensure they are testable, help create user stories, login, and all that. Okay. So this is good. So this analysis phase, I'm gonna give you guys 2 things. So first of all, of course, I'm gonna give you guys the theory, which is exactly what you see here. But the cool thing is, I'm also gonna tell you guys how it actually happens in the field, like what in most companies, what is really happening. So in this requirement analysis phase, I think I mentioned it last time, the key person that is very important in this phase is the business analyst, because remember, the business analyst has discussed with the product owner have discussed with the business have told the product owner what they want, the product owner comes to the business analyst and say, okay, guys, how can we do this? And the business analyst kind of understands the domain very well. When I mean the domain, I mean the software. I was like, okay, this is what we need to have, this is what we need to have, this is what we need to have. So the business analyst is very, very involved. The business analyst is the ones writing most of the documentation that about that stuff you need to build, and the QA is actually busy with him, or you're asking question, or also helping him with the user story. So that's also pretty much what's happening here. The design phase says the role of the tester is to collaborate with developer to understand the design decision on registration page. Yeah, so yeah, this is also basically it. So still, you can imagine when you're here, just to reiterate the question of Chinonso, while you're busy here, you're gathering more knowledge. You're gathering more. You're like, oh, okay, so this is what needs to be done. This is what needs to be done. You even give back input. You say, oh, what about? Don't you think we should do this? Don't you think we should do that? Don't you think we should give an error like this? You see, now you're understanding the requirements more and more because you're busy with the analyst here. And then here you're busy with the designer. In some companies, they have someone that designs, and then sometimes the designer is not the same as the developer in some companies. It depends also on what application you're building. But yeah, in that case, this gives you more of a visual. You as a tester, you see visually what needs to be built, and you be like, okay, what about this? What about that? Should the login not be on this side? Should the login not be on the other side? Stuff like that. login button. I mean, and then the implementation phase, you coordinate with the developer. So yeah, in most cases, um, at this phase, in most companies I've worked with, at this phase, what you're mostly busy with is writing. You're already busy with writing out your test case. Yeah, right. Because now you understood it from here. Here, you've gotten a lot of information, and you're busy writing your test case. And of course, sometimes the developers might have questions for you, or you might have questions for the developers, and you guys can always connect. But in most cases, you've understood enough already to do that. But of course, this is a good answer. However, in my um, in my professional work so far, having worked for quite a while, rarely do you actually see testers go and check unit tests and stuff like that. So don't be afraid of, oh, I have to go to unit tests with testers with the developers. That's not really, it's mostly not the case. What you could do, or what testers mostly do, is they just ask the developers, okay, did you write unit tests for this functionality? Once the developer says yes, oh, that's fine. They just believe it. You understand? So you don't need to know how to write unit tests and stuff like that. But of course, it helps when you know and understand it. And of course, this is where the testing happens. Execute the test case, which is good. You identify defects and you look back. This will be we're gonna try this whole cycle out. You guys, I'm sure you guys are gonna have fun with it as we go on during this course. And of course, deployments, you assist, and maintenance. That's very good. So good work, Sumbo. Let's just scan through the rest. I think most of you did pretty much the same. Yeah, so this is I can't remember who this is for again. Um, let me see. Maybe I can find out who this is for. This is for Chinonso, I think. Yeah, this is for Chinonso. Um, so yeah, you collaborate with the business. See, this is very good. The analyst is very important here. The business analyst. Do you guys? I keep using the word business analyst. Do you guys? Does that when I say that does it? You guys like get what that person is and what the person's role is? Just raise up your hand if you do, and if you're not clear or sure about it, please ask. Okay, so I got only two hands up. So the hands that are up, is it that you know what a business analyst is, or you don't know? If I
Like you said, if we know what a business analyst is, we should
Okay,
raise up
okay.
our
So
hands.
I suppose that so you don't know what you don't really have a clear picture what a business analyst is. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I keep
I
mixing both of you. I'm talking about endurance. Sorry, endurance. Because I saw you raised up your hand, and Justin.
yeah, I did. I do understand who a business
Okay.
analyst is.
So endurance, you did raise up your hand.
Oh, I didn't raise up
Okay,
my
good.
hand.
Constance, you raised up your hand, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
did.
So, Sumba, you did not raise up your hand, I think. Okay. Sumba is out of. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try to ask you guys, some of you that raised up your hand, to see if we can converge the idea and see if we come into the same thoughts. So we'll start with Constance. Constance, what is a business analyst, or what is a bit, or who is a business analyst to you? What is that person supposed to be doing? How do you see that person in your mind?
From my understanding, I think a business analyst is the one that basically like knows the product and knows the requirements of the software that you're trying to build. So if you have questions or you go to that person, the
Good,
business analyst.
good. Obina, is that the same idea you have, or is it something different? You're mute, Obi.
Okay, yeah, it's similar. So when the product owner um has an idea, the first person he goes to is the business analyst because the business analyst coordinates a team of developers. So the developers and the testers they work under the business analyst to get things done.
Okay. So you use the word have an idea. Can you explain what you mean by the product owner has an idea? If the product owner has an idea.
Okay, so I believe that the product owner is the one that has the entire business. So he's the one that knows what he wants to achieve. He's the owner of the
Okay.
product.
Now, very good, very good. But unfortunately, that's not what a product owner is. But I'm very happy this came up so that I would clarify it. So the product owner does not
Okay.
do what he thinks. The product owner does what the business wants. The name product owner can be quite confusing. Yes, I get it. But the product owner's job is so you just think about it like this, yeah? You have a the business wants to build Instagram. Now, Instagram is a very big app because you have the functionality of video, you have the functionality of message. Let's just take those two parts. Messaging, we have messaging, and we have that people can do video. Now, they want somebody, the business wants someone that they can just go to, and the person will give them updates on the production and development of that part. So instead of installing a manager. Back in the days, you used to have something called manager, product manager. Scrum and Agile, we don't believe in that. In fact, in a Scrum team, you don't have a boss. There is no boss in a Scrum team. You understand? Because a Scrum team is actually self-managing. The way it is that you guys work as a single unit. You're a team. But the product owner is the one that represents the team when towards the business. So if the business wants to ask questions, okay, how far is this feature? Have you guys finished? When are you guys going to finish the development of the camera and the photography and all that? They don't have to. The business don't have to come to the team. No, they come to the product owner because he is representing that part of the product. He's the representative, but he's not typically called a boss. No, we do say boss, but he's not a boss. He does not boss anybody around. Neither does the scrum master boss anybody around. They just communicate with the business, and from the business, they send the message. They kind of say, okay, this part of the product needs to be done by September, and then the team comes together like, okay, how can we make that possible? So that's what it. So he doesn't do what he thinks. He actually does what the business wants. And the product owner is actually an employee as well, so he can get fired. And you can also get a job as a product owner as well. So, but it's the same way you guys are studying to be software testers or QA testers. That's the same way people are studying to become product owners as well, and also Scrum Master. But we're going to talk about Scrum Master later. So yeah, but you're right on the business analyst part. If I does that the business analyst explanation, does that fit with what you, or you have something different in mind?
Yes, yes. The what they said is good, but the business analyst also acts as a bridge between the product owner and the stakeholder at the team.
Yep, yep, that's true. So when something is not clear about what needs to be designed, mostly the team goes to the business analyst and say, okay, what about this? What about that? Good. Justin, does that also fit in with what you had in mind?
Yes, in a way, just that also um, most of it is that the business analyst also deals with data, right? So he tries to understand the data. He's the one that analyzes about the feel and the taste of how the um, software is intended to, to get to the end user. So he analyzes everything before giving it to developers or to discuss it with the developers on how it should go. So for me, he deals more with data, uh, analyzing and processing, so that he can communicate to the developers clearly on what kind of data this should accept, a particular product should accept, and what it should not.
Yeah, yeah, understandably, yeah. So yeah, so I want to just on respect to your answer, I want to separate that with a data analyst. A data analyst is quite different from a business analyst, but it's true. A business analyst needs to be aware of data, but you don't need to be a data analyst. You don't need to know a lot about data per se. But I think if I have to put it simply, the business analyst needs to know the flow of data, how the data flows around. I think that's very important. So you need to know that maybe if the software, if someone puts an email address on the screen, if the software eventually changes that email address to uh, a hash or removes some part of the email address and maybe before it saves it in the database, a business analyst needs to know that there's a data transformation like okay, people enter this but in the database this gets saved. A different thing gets saved. So you need to know what the data is doing, the flow of the data, but of course the whole software how it behaves. You need to also be aware of that. So, but good answers, guys. And I hope that helped the others as well. But if you don't, if you still have questions about it later, do let me know. So good job, good job, good job. And I'll just pick one more in view of time because I think you guys did this pretty well. So yeah, so we have the requirement phase, making sure all requirements are testable as intended, building good reports. And yeah, then we have design phase, clarifying questions. So remember, design is mostly how it's going to look like. You want to see it. You want to be like, okay, do I understand the flow? That's good. And then of course you write your test. Yeah, really good stuff, good stuff. And I'm also happy that you guys actually did the assignment. That's very nice, very encouraging. So let's start off with the last part of this chapter. And that will be black box, white box, and gray box testing. So you want this is a very interesting part. I would say don't forget to make your notes. Sometimes you also get questions about black box, white box, and gray box testing during your exams. So yeah, but it's not as complicated as it sounds. Once you understand it, you will get what it's all about. So in this session, we'll dive into three critical testing methodologies: the black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. Now, each of these methods have a unique approach to testing, and by the end of this session, you'll understand when and how to use them effectively. Now, understand the context and purpose of each type of testing is actually very important. And yeah, we're going to get started. So we'll start with black box testing. Now, black box testing focuses on testing the software's functionality without needing to know anything about its internal workings or code. You provide input, you observe the outputs, and you see if they match your expectations without even worrying about anything that is working or how it's going, what is going on inside it. Now, we're going to get more clarity on how that looks like. Now, some of the characteristics of black box testing are: tests are based on software requirements and functionality. Testers don't need to know the code or its internal structure. And the main focus is on inputs and the expected output. Is this clear? Do you guys understand this? All right, I'm going to go one step ahead before you answer. Let's go back to our case study of ncat.com. And you guys had to write a use case, a test case for registration page. So You guys wrote a test case for this page, right? So my question is this a white box testing that you guys did? Now let's go back to the definition again so you guys know what are the characteristics. Tests are based on software requirements and functionality. Testers don't need to know the code or internal structure. The main focus is on input and expected output. So is this a white box testing? The one you guys wrote?
I'll say yes.
Yes. Okay. Justin says yes. Obina raised up his hand. Obina, can you tell us why you think, what you think, and then tell us why you think that way?
Okay, so this is a black box
Okay. And
testing.
why do you think so?
Yeah, and I think so because it didn't require us to go into the code structure of the software. We just focus on input and
Okay.
expected output or expected outcome.
Okay. No, so you also answered previously. Can you tell us your answer and why you think that way? I mean, Justin, sorry. You're mute.
Yeah, well, I was just looking at the definition, the test we conducted as well. Um, we didn't really have to know the functionalities uh, of how it worked. What we're just testing was not the software in a whole as a whole, but just the registration process or page of the NCAT website. So I just feel um, is limited, so to say. What we tested was basically the process of registration on the
So it's a
website.
black box test to you?
No, I
Okay.
said white. Sorry, yeah, I said
You
black.
meant black.
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah.
yeah, I meant
So
black. Sorry.
you're correct. It's a black box testing, but I want to correct your explanation. So you said you're not testing the whole functionality. Yes, you are testing the whole functionality. The so I understand what you mean, but I just want you to use the right phrases. So you are testing the whole functionality of the registration page, but you are not testing what is happening under the machine or what's happening inside it, basically. So I would also give you guys an example of black box testing later. I mean, of white box testing, which is the opposite of this. But the answers are very correct. It makes what you said. So I'm giving this example so it will just make sense to you guys. Like if you're gonna test us anything that okay, I put something here. This is what I expect. I put something here. This is what I expect. If that's it, that's a black box test. And remember, think about black box as a box really. Just think about it. That's at least that's how I visualize things. I try if I want to understand something, I visualize it. So a black box, just a box, but you cannot see through it. It's just black. You understand? And that's where the term comes from because the only way to see what's inside a black box is to open it. So black box means I can see the outside, but I cannot see anything inside. And for a code, I mean for a software, the thing inside is the code, the data flow, how data goes up and down. When you can see all of that, then you're going inside of it. But a black box is black. You can't. It's not transparent. So when you think about black box, oh that means I don't know what's happening inside. Fine. For me, that's just I think if you put that mental picture in your head, it will just make sense. So you guys, the answers you gave very correct. So let's move forward to the next part, which is also about the black box. So, what are common techniques in black box text testing? So you guys already saw that the test cases you guys wrote, you guys are already busy with black box testing anyway. So, what are the common techniques? So you have the equivalence partitioning. These are just technical terms, but it's good to just know them because they mostly come in tests in your exams. But yeah, the in real life, as long as you just know what black box testing is enough. But let's get to the theories and see. So we have equivalence partitioning. So this divides input data into groups that should behave similarly and testing one value from each. We're going to see how that looks like as we go on. Then we have boundary value analysis. This tests the edge cases or boundary values of each partition. So if you have, for example, like last time I was mentioning that, oh, you guys should think about edge cases. So the point there is you have your happy flow, which is you expect the user to just come in, put in their password, and for example, put in their password and the proper email and the login. But what if the requirement said that using the same registration form, if anybody has the email address that ends with enquete.com, that means that person is an employee. So let's that person has to be marked or has to have a different login to when the person logs in, they have to go to a different page other than what customers go to. So you see, yeah, that means on the same registration form, there are two behaviors. One is a behavior for uh, people who are customers, and one is another behavior that checks if the email ends with enquete.com, that means that's an employee, and then sends the user to a different place. So a situation like that is called a boundary case, an edge case. So um, black box testing is first of all you test the normal flow, the happy flow, and you also test, okay, is there an edge case? Okay, what if maybe like I just mentioned, the edge case is yeah, if the email ends with enquete.com, then you want to also test that. So it's also part of black box testing to see if what the requirements expect is what's actually happening. Then you have decision table testing. Let's see if we can get a mental picture of all of this. I'm gonna go to Google. Let's just do that. So equivalence, lens, partitioning, uh, testing. So you see how that looks like. See if they have a good image for that. So so yeah, we can use this diagram. So basically, you have your input here, you put it in, and you already know what you expect to get, a valid input, right? So you remember the last test you guys did, I was like, okay, you guys make sure you put in the email, the exact email you want to use for your test, the password, and then you know what to expect at the end. But at the same time, you also put invalid test, and you also know what to expect at the end. So you put all of these inputs in the system, and from the requirements you already know what should happen. And if for some reason what you take, for example, you put a valid input and what you expect is not what happens, yeah, then you have a bug. Or you put an invalid input to the system and something you don't expect happens, then that's also a problem. So just imagine I put one of the requirements was the person should have a valid email, and then I put an invalid email, but the system still registers it. So it's an invalid input, but the expectation was not what was supposed to happen, and that's also a bug. So yeah, so that's just basically what that is. Um, so let's see. Yeah, so this is also how this is also sometimes represented. So you see, this is the inputs, for example, and this is what you expect, and this input is invalid. Sorry, this input is invalid. This one is invalid. This is a valid. This is a valid, and then you use this to so you test each of these cases using this method. So let's see if we can also see a visual representation of boundary value analysis. Let's see if there's anything interesting we can see. So this is just this tabular format. Of course, I hope it's going to be something that you guys can. It's just for more structure. It gives you as a tester more structure to know. Okay, this is what I have to test and how it has to come out. So yeah, this is actually in Dutch. Let me see if I'll find an English version. It's an image of it. Let's see. Okay. In view of time, I'm going to find graphical examples and show it to you guys during our next training. But basically, like I said, these are just edge cases you wanna have. You want to test during your testing. Decision table is also an interesting one. This one maps out all possible inputs combination and expected output in a table format. I think this one is also very interesting to see. Uh, Decision table testing. So it's just basically writing your unit test in such a way that you create a table, and with that table you can just test it one by one. So you see, this is a tabular format for different type of tests. So the first test, this is the condition, your email and password needs to be filled in. So what happens? So your first rule, which is the first test, is you make both of them empty. What should happen? You put what should happen here. So maybe what should happen is a show error. Uh, then rule two is empty. This one is empty, but you put an invalid password. This one is empty. Your email is empty, but you put a valid password. And the action here, you have to put what should happen if these two rules are carried out. What if this one is invalid, an invalid email, but the password is empty? What should happen? Valid, valid. What should happen? What should happen? And then when you test it as well, you use this table to also, like when you already write this test case like this, then when you're testing it, it would look something like this. So when you test this two, empty, empty, what happened? Maybe the software uh, logged you in, or I think this is for login, logged you in, then you now put here failed. This one failed. Then you try this two. If it does what it's supposed to do, you say pass. This two, if it fails, you write failed. So with this chart, you can be able to give a report and say, okay, I tested all of these rules and three passed and the rest failed. And then then you can report this to the developers and they will redo it. So this makes this kind of a much more easier way to write test cases that can cover different type of rules, and for you to also test them and give good feedback or reports about it. So yeah, this is just basically how that looks like. So it's kind of a lot of tests in one, even though you have to write out the test cases like you guys did, but with this chart, you can easily write a report and show what you have tested and what the results are. So quite interesting. Then you have state transition testing, and this tests how the software moves from one state to another state based on different inputs. So a state is basically saying how the software behaves. So let me give an example. I don't know if we have a very good example here, but what if for some reason if I log in with this email, I if I log in with this, I get to this page, but maybe if an employee logs in with that page, with maybe if an employee logs in with enquete.com, it takes them to a different page. So that those are two different states that gets activated based on what you log in or how you log in. So yeah, you also write tests for this this kind of stuff. But as we mentioned, they're all uh, black box testing because you don't know what's happening inside the software. All you know is what should happen if a certain combination of input is being given, and those are the stuffs you test. So these are the common techniques people use. And yeah, depending on the software testing team you find yourself, you guys might be using one or two or more of these techniques during your software testing process. Now, are there any questions? Let me be sure I am clear enough. Okay, no questions. Then we'll move over to white box testing. So white box testing takes the opposite approach. And here you dive into the software internal workings, you test the code itself. This type of testing requires knowledge of code structure and it's typically performed by developers or skilled testers who understand the code. Now, the characteristics of white box testing are tests are based on software's internal logic and the code structure. The focus is on testing uh, the path, the branch, the loops, the conditions that are in the code. And I'm going to show you guys a real example of this. And common techniques in white box testing include path testing, which ensures that all possible parts of the code are tested. We also have branch testing. Uh, this tests every possible branch from each decision point of the code. That's just basically making sure that if a user puts inputs gives an input that all the different behaviors that needs to happen actually occurs. And I'm gonna try for to give you guys a test, show you guys an example of that. Then you have state coverage. This ensures every line of code is executed at least once. And then you have condition coverage, and this tests all logical conditions are this tests all logical conditions to verify that the outcome of both true and false uh, are tested or carried out. Now, this is a lot of words for you guys, and I think one of the best ways to show you guys how this might look is to show you guys in code. So, like you realize, like it's mentioned, most people that do white box testing in your team are mostly the developers, or sometimes testers that have been doing some kind of development or that are knowledgeable with software development. So let me see if I can pull out one of my old projects, and we'll try to see if we can try some some of this stuff. So let's see. So I would try the. Let me see. What could we try? I have so much projects here. Let's see which one will be interesting. So let's try this one. So this is the software that I used to, or I'll say, let's say the code for the Pigax software for this one. Now, this software, like I introduced it to you guys, this software is the software that helps pig farmers to manage their farming work and production and all of that. And it has features like you can log in, for example. So let's pick up one of these. Let me switch my accounts. So you can log in. You can add a pig record. So you see, you have all of this. If I click on submit, you see I have all those logics in it that make sure you enter what needs to be entered and all of that. And when you click on this, it stores all your data to the database. Now, let's see how I can white box test this stuff. So remember, first of all, I designed this, and then I have to program it that if I click on the submit, something should happen. Now, in this case, what I want to test simply is if the name function is empty, if nobody puts this name thing, it should give me an error, which is name is required. Now, I want to test it in the code, which is white box, to make sure that that flow actually happens. So I'm going to kickstart this software. Let's see, say yes to that. So the software comprises of two fronts. So we have the front end and the back end. The front end is the website, is the front end that users interact with, which is this, and the back end is the part that talks to the database. So I'm gonna go deep in this later, but I just want you guys to know that we have just two parts of it, so we don't spend too much time. So I'm gonna open up the front side. So this one you see here is live. You see, this is a hosted version. This is live. You guys can access it. But if I want to, during my development process, I actually do that on my computer. So I'm going to open the local version. We call that the local version, the one that runs on my computer, but not on the internet. And only when I'm done working on my computer, then I load it on the internet. So I'm going to close this page and I'm going to run the one that is on my computer. So let me me stop this for a while because I have to kickstart my database. So just give me a minute. I have, let me see, where are all my tools? So I have what we call Docker. I have to turn off all my Docker containers. You don't need to know what this is. I'm just mentioning this word. So I have to turn all of this off. Container, container, container. Okay, they're all turned off. Then I have to kickstart my database. Let me see, where is my database? Um, Kickstarting it. You guys can still see my screen, right? All right. So right now I'm
Yeah, we can see your
kickstarting my
screen.
database. Just give it a minute. And I'm also going to teach you guys what a database is. That's not a problem. Let me show you guys visually what a database looks like. So I'm using a particular database they call MySQL. So I installed it locally on my computer. So this is my database. I'm gonna go into it. I think I have my password should be root, I think. Yeah. So my database. I have a database for pig management. So this is my database. So as you can see, I have different tables. These are tables, and this is actually the table pigs. This is the one where I store all my registered pigs. So if I register a new pig, it should come in here. Now so we have our database running. Now let's run this to get it started. So, so this is the API. This is what you call, this is the one that when a request comes from the front end, it gets sent to this back end here, and the back end does something with the database. So, and this is where the logic happens. I'm coming, bro. So I'm gonna go deep. I want to stay high level so you guys don't get lost on me. So this is the input I'm expecting to get when someone registers. Now, still very vague, I know. Now let's open the front end, and then I'll show you guys what's going on. So I'm gonna go to the front end, and I'm gonna run it as well. So this is the front end. This is kickstarting. Okay, it's busy. Yes, so you see, this is the front end, and as you can see, this is not hosted. This is on my local machine. It's different from the ones when I showed you. So if you go to Pigax, this is the one that you guys, everybody around the world, can access. But this one is running on my computer and is exactly identical to what is on the internet. And this is where I build it. When I make a change here, I now send it to the internet where everyone can use. So technically, I as a developer, I make a change here. You guys as testers test it. If it's good, I post it. I put it on the internet. Now let's see. We are trying to test. We want to test something, right? So let's go to this part. So this one is running on my local machine. I'm gonna log in. Let's see. I think I have a login here. I'm gonna log in to Semicare Farms probably. Let's see. I think I have something there. No, let me go to a different farm. Let's try farm two. Yeah. Or rather, let's go to this one. Let me see. Do I have a farm? Hey. All right. Let's try Semicare Farms. Farm manager. All pigs. All right. So here, okay, this one is a different type of farm. This is a very interesting software. We're going to do some work on it. So this particular farm, we have the ability to add a new pig, right? So let's see what's going on here. So this is the front end. I'm going to look for this code for adding a pig. So we have pig management here, and let's see. Um, this is the view. Let's see. We have the controller. You don't have to understand this. I just want to show you the white box testing part of it. So let's see, we have the pig management. And remember, on this page, when someone clicks on submit, and don't put in anything, I want to see that it gives me an error. All right, so now I have to look for where does this code get sent to when you click on it. So as a developer, I know where that is. So that's going to be somewhere around, uh, just give me a minute. I'm going to find it. Archive, pigs, add. So this is where it happens. So we can add a pig here, and I'm going to put a breakpoint. No, this is the get, this is the post. This is where it happens. Yeah. So you're gonna see now. So you see, I as a developer now, I put this here. This is what we call a breakpoint. And what happens here is once someone clicks on submit, it's going to come in here, and I'm going to see what the person submitted. Now, am I correct? Let me see. This is no, sorry. This is a different. This is add pig batch. That's not where it comes to. It comes to create. Yes. Create. Sorry, it's gonna get here. So this is what's gonna happen. Now I'm gonna click on submit. Now you see what's gonna happen. Submit. So you see, it lands here in my code. Now I can now see as a white box tester, I can see what the person filled in. Now if I put my cursor here and open this, I see the person didn't fill in anything. The age is empty. Animal status is empty. Everything is empty. Okay. Now let's keep going. So I'm gonna step over and yeah. So here I'm doing some validation, right? I'm checking image. If image was added, image was not added. Okay, this is just basic validation. And what I want to do show you guys is where it returns the error message and how it does that. So we keep going, we keep going. It gets the token. And what happens here, let's see. Now let's put a breakpoint somewhere, somewhere here. I'm gonna go. So now it has gotten all the inputs. Look, these are all the inputs, and all of them are empty. Look, no, 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 nothing is in here. And then it takes that, it sends it to our API. That is this back. It sends it. So you see all these records that are here is what it has now in here. See, but they're all empty. Height, all this stuff. Now it takes it. So you just assume all of these are not filled in. It's gonna send this now to this back end, and the code for this back end is a different software we call the API. Now this is the API code. Let's go look for it. It's gonna land somewhere in here. Pick controller. Now let's look for where it's gonna land. Very high level. You don't need to understand. I just want to show you that, guys. What I'm doing now is white box testing because I know what is happening under the hood. So I'm gonna put my breakpoint here. So this is a post. So it's gonna come in here. And then I'm going to also put a breakpoint somewhere else so you guys will see where the error is coming from. That error you guys are seeing. So we have pigs, we have commands, we have create pig, and here. So I'm gonna put it here. So you're gonna see now that when I continue, when I step over, I'm gonna land on the other code. So I'm gonna step over, and yeah, this is gonna keep going. And you see, I'm here. I'm on the other code. So these are two different codes. So you see, this code on the left is my front end. This one on my right is the API, the one that talks to the database. And you see, my breakpoint is here. So I sent code from here. I sent a request from here, and it landed on this other side. Now check this. It also has all the inputs, but all of them are no. I'll keep going, and then I land here. Now this is where it does that check. Now I go here, it does a validation. When it does that validation, let's look at what is inside the validation. See, it has all this validation message. Name is required because it did some validation tests. And the validation tests, I wrote them. So we can go in here and I'll show you guys where the validation exists. So you see here, I wrote all the validation. Name is required. It checks if the nickname is not there, if the identity number is not there. And this messages you see here is what gets returned. So you can see when I check in the validation errors, we can see all of them. Name is required, blah blah blah. Now I'm gonna fire it up again. I'm just gonna keep going, and then everything goes through. Let's see. I'll fire this one up. Everything goes through, and then we back. You see that? All of this is coming from my backend. And because of I'm a white box tester, I can follow the path. Now, what if I put my another name here? I'll say pig software tester. Software tester. Let's see as a white box text tester if this actually comes true. So I'll put an something like this. As a white box tester, I'm gonna shoot this in. I'm just gonna press play, play, and we'll come all the way to where we were before. And check this out. See that? Let's look for the name. You see that identification number and XXX. And if we scroll down, we will see that. So as a white box tester, I have now checked, and indeed, what the user filled in here, see that, was received at the back of the code. Let me see. Where's my code? Uh, it was received. And that also means so identification number, nickname, all received, but the rest was not received. But that means if I continue, then I would not see this error anymore. This one and this one will be gone because the user actually filled it in. Now fire it up, keep going, and you see when we come back to the page, you see that it's gone, but it gives you errors for the rest. So you see, as a developer and as a white box tester, I can follow the path. I can go through, I can check, okay, what the person put in, is that what I'm receiving inside the code? And that's because I'm a white box tester. But as a black box tester, you see, you guys didn't have to do that. All you guys are interested in is I put in this is the error I expect. But as a white box tester myself, which is what developers are mostly, we can go under the code and say, okay, this thing I put in, is it actually what I'm seeing? Because sometimes your software could be breaking or could be giving a bug because what you put in did not was not received by the back end or by the code under. So that's basically what this is about. And you see, that is how we can make sure that everything is working and the right error messages are being given for this particular software. So a little bit of uh, I'm just giving you guys a little bit of context so you see how it looks, even though it's a little bit high level, but very interesting stuff. And let's see, and here these are the characteristics of white box testing. I think we touched on it. So the characteristics are the tests are based on software's internal logic, which is what we talked about. The code structure, you see, we went into the logic, code structure, code structures and stuff like that. And the focus is on testing path, branch, loop, conditions within the code. So you see, I know exactly how the software needs to move. If the software does not follow the path or the place it's supposed to go, then I know that's a problem or I'm supposed to change it. And it always has to be in line with what the software requirements are. But this is something mostly developers are busy with. And of course, if we go to the next part, which are the common techniques. So these are uh, mostly what we just saw, and you see, yeah, as a developer as well, you're going to be busy with making sure that the logic does what it's supposed to do. Um, do you guys have any questions, or did I successfully confuse you guys even more? Okay, no questions. If I
So, okay, what you're basically saying is, let's say after the testers have done their black box testing, then if they find an
Yes,
error,
that's
then the
typically what
developer
happens,
will
but
perform the white box testing.
technically, a good developer, before you send your software to the tester, you're supposed to have performed white box testing. You have to do that. You cannot just write your code and expect it's gonna work. No, you have to write your code, test it, and follow. I'm like, okay, everything is working the way I think, and then you send it. Then of course, like what you said, even though you did that and the testers find a bug, then of course you have to use white box testing method to try to find, okay, what is the problem, why is this code behaving like that, and that also happens. So you probably do it two times if you want to do it right, because if you do if you most cases if you do proper white box testing when you're developing your code, yeah, it reduces the chances that the developers will find issues. But yeah, it is what it is.
Okay,
And
okay.
we'll go to the next part where we talk about gray box testing. Now this part is quite interesting, and sometimes uh, testers find themselves in this circle. Now, gray box testing combines the elements of both black box testing and white box testing. And testers have partial knowledge of the internal working of the software, but the focus remains on end user functionality. It's a balanced approach that leverages both internal understanding and functional testing. So, yeah, it's in the middle, and we're gonna see. I'm gonna give you guys a very good example how that might look like. Now, what are some of the characteristics of gray box testing? Box testing. Testers have some knowledge of the code or structure, but full access isn't necessary. So, testers don't need to know what I just showed you, but you have some idea of how the code flows or what needs to flow. And I'm like I said, I'm going to show you guys an example. And another characteristic is gray box testing focuses on functionality from an end user perspective while utilizing limited code insights. Now, let me show you guys, in most cases, what a gray box testing should could look like. Now, so we're gonna still test this stuff. All right, so this is us trying to add what do you call it? We're trying to add um a new pig record, right? Oh, by the way, before I do that, let's because I showed you guys a database, so let me show you guys what happens with the database. So let's fill this out. So we fill this. We're gonna put the gender of the animal. We're gonna say date of birth, the breed, the litter number. Let's leave that blank. Is a Duroc. Uh, is is a breeding stock. Let's add a group. Uh, let's say no. Let's leave that empty for now. Let's add a pig pen. I'm gonna say pen one. Let's submit that, and pen is added, and the father is say FF1. The mother is MM1. Maybe the weight. Let's see. So we have. Let's just remember this. Huh? We have this record. Let me try to submit it. Yeah, I think delivery date is also important. I have to put a delivery date. It was delivered at one. Delivery date kind of less than. All right, so maybe we purchased this animal for $800. So if I submit this now, it goes through all this code stuff, does all this stuff, and what happens? Oh yeah, we have to go to the other code. Let me see. Yeah, just play it, make sure it does what it does, and check this out. It gets stored. So remember I showed you guys the database. So let's look for this record. So this record now has been stored in my database, and I told you guys this is practically my database, and now I can look for that record. So let's do a search. Let's search for that record. So this is what you call my SQL database. We for to the language that this database that you use for structural for we call this PLSQL kind of stuff is called structural query languages. You can write queries to query information from the database. So, and how does that look like? We're gonna do that here real quick. So this is my pig database, and I know for sure that this record gets stored in the pig database. And I'll just say where I want you to find all pigs where the name. So remember, I gave it a name. So this name, I'm gonna say, okay, where does this name get stored? The name I think is stored under nickname. So I'll say where nickname is equal to. So I wanted to find the record where this nickname exists. So I'm gonna post that, and you see this is exactly the same record you just saw that the user added, and it's been stored in the database here. So you see NX, pig, date of birth, gender, purchase. So you see the purchase was 800. I think I, if you
Mm.
click on view, see it's 800. All that stuff you filled in gets stored here. All right. So that's just how the database looks like, and that's what you use the database for. All right. I just wanted to give you guys more context on that for those that are new to that part of it. We go to the next part. Yeah, we're talking about gray box testing. Sorry, I got sidetracked. So I want to give you guys an example of what that would look like. So remember, you as a developer, you don't really have access in most cases to the code, and you don't really care. You might have access, but you don't care. But some for some companies, they don't even give developers access. But how can you gray box test this? So let's go back here again. And in the browser itself, there is the browser contains a software that developers can use, both front end and back end developers as well as testers can use to do some gray box testing. So if you push on F12, if you open any browser, especially a modern browser, I'm currently using Chrome, and you push the F12 button on your keyboard, it will open this stuff. This is what you call your developer menu or your developer script. This is a very wonderful tool to perform gray box testing. Now you have different tabs up here, and a lot of times you can see informations of things that might go wrong even on under the console page here. But let's take a look at this. Let's go to network. Every time you click on submit, the data you stored here gets sent to the backend to the code, and you mostly see that happening here on the network. So let's do that. So we click on submit. Now you see it sends something here. Uh, Let me stop this for a bit. Let me just not, let's use the one online. Let's close this up so that you guys can try this at home. So I'm gonna go back to the normal. Yeah, I'm gonna go to just pickaxe.com. I'm going to go to my page. Let's just go straight to Opig record, Opig. So I'm gonna, you press the F12 button. You have what you call the developer menu. Now you see activities are even happening here, but let's not focus on this. So let's click on. So I'm gonna say let's type in a pig name. I'll say Duroc 45, and I click on submit, and let's see what's going on. So it gives me this error, but you also see that this was where this shows all the stuff. Just a minute. This shows all the stuff that happened after I clicked on this button. A lot of stuff happened. A request was sent online to the internet to a particular place, and something got back. But even here, you can see that there is a request that was called create that was sent out. So if you click on this, so even the fact that you're doing this, you're already gray box tested because you're looking under the code. Now I click on this great create. This is the request that actually left when I click this. This was what was sent. And when you click on this create, you can go through the tabs to see exactly what actually happened. So let's go through it. Say, okay, is there something I can find that is quite interesting for me when I'm testing? So let's scroll down. We see in any case, a 200 means that everything went well and it came back with an error. Let's see, is there any other interesting thing we could find? Let's see, for example, so you have all kinds of stuff here. Let's see. Okay, this is my response. Let's see, can we find something in the response? So this response, this is what came back, right? So this whole thing you're seeing here is actually this web page. And what if for some reason maybe you were not seeing this tag name, this thing was not here, and you can always check as a gray box tester because you are aware, you have some knowledge of this. You can be like, okay, I came to this response page, and this response is actually what I'm seeing here. Let me see if this tag thing is in there. So you can just do Control F. Let's see if we can find it. And voila, you see, tag is required. So that's it. It's in there. And maybe for some reason you're not seeing it. You can come into your response and check it like, okay, is this something that has to do with what came back? Maybe what came back was not complete. Let me see. This is you testing, you're checking because you have some idea about what happens under, but not that you have access to the code, but you already know how data goes in and out. So this is when you're using this tool, when you learn how to use this tool or you start playing around with this tool, you're already gray box testing because you're testing stuff that is really your focus is actually on the behavior, but you are also aware of the fact that when you click on a button, a request gets sent and a request gets received, and the requests have all this information. These are things I can teach you guys about, but it's a little bit outside the scope of this. But every time you click a submit button, a request called a post is sent. So if you remember in my code, you would have seen that I was listening to a post request. Like the code is waiting. Like okay, I'm expecting that when something comes, it should have a post name, and this is how the browser sends that in. So these are something. This is a little bit high level, but of course, if you learn about this or you know a little bit about it, you don't need to know so much. You can then start gray box testing and be like, okay, I sent a post request. What came back? If this was red, that means something broke on the server side, and you can tell the developer, listen, I sent a post request, but it was not 200. Okay, it came back as 500, for example. And I also checked, for example, the response. I was expecting to see tag name is required, but in the response, that was not there. So you can communicate it to the testers and say to the developers and say, yo, I was looking for tag name, but it was not there. But in this case, it is here. But I'm just giving an example in the case that you don't find it. So you going under using this tool is already you gray box testing because you're not testing only this part. You're trying to see, okay, what went out, what came in, is that what I'm expecting, blah blah blah. But in the real world, you're probably good enough black box testing. But of course, as you continue to be a tester, you want to get your hands dirty a little bit on the gray box testing area, and it will open your world to make you'll be like you'll be able to do a lot of stuff. Does that make sense? All right, good, 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 good. All right, so let's
Yeah,
get back to
Yes.
yeah.
our stuff. So now let's go to the next part. So common techniques in gray box testing. It includes matrix testing. This tests interactions between different components to ensure all combination works as expected. You can also look this up later using Google just to see how this they're visually represented. So when you hear of matrix, mostly is a tabular format of arranging your test cases or test data. You also have regression testing, ensure that new changes haven't broken existing functionality. Pattern testing, looking for specific patterns or use cases that might reveal hidden defects. So yeah, you could use depending on the company you're working on, but if it's a browser, for example, yeah, you could use the F12 to see if some of these things is actually what you see. For example, if you're doing regression testing and maybe you F12 this and you're like normally maybe based on the way it was supposed to work, normally if you click on this, something else should be here, but now you clicked on it and that thing is not here, then you can be like, okay, yeah. Before you made this change, I always saw this file create. Now that you've changed it, this stuff does not show up again. So guys, something is broken, and you're doing that because you are a gray box tester. You test both the front, but you are also familiar with what happens a little bit under the hood. So these are different patterns, of course, that I use now. An example also is yeah, for example, when you're testing an e-commerce website, you might know that the database structure you might have some knowledge of the database structure and verify that the use that the user interface interacts correctly with the database. And if a user submits something, for example, and you check in the database and you don't find it, it means that okay, something is wrong. And that also means that you're a gray box tester because you know a little bit about databases and you're like, okay, I'm gonna just like what we did, I'm gonna submit this and I'm going to go to the database to check if it actually came in there. And if you don't see it there, you're like, okay, guys, something went wrong because before it was working, now it's not working. Or According to the new requirements, if a user submits this, it's supposed to be stored in the database. So for the fact you are even accessing the database and you are verifying what's happening in the database, you're already a gray box tester because you're checking the front, but you're also aware of how or what should happen on the database level, and you're even testing that as it were. Any questions? No. All right. So let's keep going to the last part. So this is oh, I think we have someone raising up their hands. Did someone raise up their hand? Right. No. Okay. All right. So
Yes,
you
I
have
did.
to open up your
I wanted to
browser,
ask
any browser that is
how we got to
modern,
that
and just
F12.
press F12 on your keyboard. Or sometimes your keyboard might be configured differently. If you press the F12 keyboard on your keyboard and that doesn't happen, just right click on your page and click on Inspect. So once you click on Inspect, it would open up the same place. So you can just look around and see. This is very interesting tool for testing. I use it a lot for my own white box testing and stuff. But it's just good to be aware and know that it's there. And for example, even if the software you're testing needs to work well on a mobile phone, right? Take for example, one of the requirements is it should look good on the mobile phone. You can use this to test that because here on top of this, here on the top, you can click on this icon and it will convert your screen. You can select that. Okay, I want to test as if this screen is a mobile phone, and you can do that. You see, if you click on this, you see different kinds of mobile phones. So for example, even iPads, huh? So we can say we want to pretend like this is an iPhone SE. So if you click on that, you see it changes your screen to look like an iPhone, and then you can test it like, okay, it looks good. Remember, during the design phase, you're also there, and you're like, okay, how should it look like if someone, assuming that's part of the requirement, how should it look like if a user is on a mobile phone, and you're like, this is one of the ways you can test it. So you see, you just converted the whole thing to a mobile phone. Look at the whole menu got collapsed. That's exactly how you want it. The user login is in here. Okay, that's great. Let's close that. And yeah, and then you can say, okay, how does it look on a tablet? If that's part of the requirements, you switch this. You say, okay, where's the tablet? We have a tablet setting here. I think blah 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 blah. This is Samsung Ultra. I thought I saw a tablet here. iPhone Pro Max. Okay, I am not seeing a tablet per se, but if you want to move to a tablet, you can do this. If you put your mouse up here, you see it kind of tells you in the middle here. Look at the name here in the middle. See, if I put my mouse here, it says this is a tablet with the size of 768 pixel. If you go one more out, you say this is a laptop size. So let's test for a tablet size. So I click on that, you see. So this is how it looks like on a tablet. So you say, okay, I'm testing for tablets, and you see the icon is showing. So based on the requirements, maybe the requirement is the icon only should show. So remember, if it was a full web page, you see you have the name Pigax is showing exactly. But on the tablet, tablet settings, you see it's only the icon that is showing. So maybe that's part of the test. You're like, okay, I want to make sure that the design requirements meets what we want. And what if this was not showing it? What if it was something else? You now send it back to the developers and say, guys, it works fine on the web page, but when I move to tablet view, for example, it's showing me something else. So that way you are also testing. So and you can do all of that from here, and yeah, you if you click it out, it goes back to how it is. So it's a very powerful tool, and all of that, and very very powerful tool. We can spend the whole day talking about this part. So F12, or you right click and click on inspect to open it up. So I have a lab session for you guys. Um, so the lab session is I want you guys to choose a simple application like a calculator, um, or any other application you guys would like. But If you don't think about anything, just a calculator is a nice one. And try to apply what you've learned. So, what do you want to think about? Think about uh, so the for the black box testing part, focus on the input. So, write some use cases, sorry, some test cases for black box testing. Now, of course, you guys don't have access to the code, but you could just write what you think one could do when they are white box testing, like just some few stuff where you think, okay, what could the person test? Just like I just showed you how white box testing is. So, for example, if I press two, what should actually happen under the code level? So you can just write whatever you think. And yeah, it's quite difficult to do gray box testing here. But you could also just think about it, think outside the box, and see what you can write pertaining gray box testing. Another thing you guys could do is as well is for a calculator, instead of using a real calculator that is on in your house, you can also go online and try to look for a calculator software. So let's just say calculator, calculator. So there's so many calculators online. So let's not use the one for Google. Let's go to one that is pretty much online. So let's look for a more simple one. I don't want the complicated calculator. So calculator suits. Yeah, this is too complicated. Just looking for something quite simple. So this stuff you can do. Inflation, graph calculator. Just so much calculator. Let me see. Money calculator. Okay, you can use something like this. And then you see here when you say calculate. So you can use this part for gray box testing. So you're like, okay, this sends something here. What if I press F12? So you say, I, I'll put like 2 here, and I click on calculate. Press. I don't know the software. I've never been here before. As you see, I just Google it. So I click on inspect. So if I go to console, I can just test like, okay, I'm gonna clear this out. There's so much errors. If I say calculate, do I see anything? So you see some stuff had happened in here. So you see, it's like, oh, okay, this happens. It sends the script. It checks if this is not a mobile. A lot of interesting things happening here. And we can go to the network part and see what actually is there any interesting thing. I would just say just click around some of this stuff and see what is happening. But basically everything you see that on this page, including the logos and everything, you can see them happening here on the network. These are all stuff that go over the internet. So once you click, it goes over, it comes back, including all this text. All of this are all in this code. So just play around with it. This is not like I said. I don't know this app. It seems also more complicated, but it can give you an idea of okay. I clicked on 4, what's supposed to happen. Maybe if you pick this software and you gray box tested it, and you're like, okay, when I click on 4, I'm supposed to see 4 somewhere in the code or somewhere in the post request. Let me see. But yeah, this is a very complicated code because there's so much adverts on it. So you have to search through this one by one to be able to find even the number you just put in here. Um, but you can also click on this, and if I go to the code, I see that the value is 4. So you can also do that. You can be like, okay, let me see if my 4 actually got in. So I clicked on this particular icon. I came here and I clicked on my input, and you see the code showed me that the value that I entered is 4. So if I also do the same thing, if I click on 76, if I click on calculate, I can also gray box test it and be like, okay, I click on this, I hover my mouse over here, and I click on the 76, and automatically it shows me the code, and it says yes, my 76 is the value that. So this is just you looking under the code a little bit to see what's going on. But I just want you guys to just play around with it. But yeah, that would just make you or give you guys a clear understanding about these 3 types of testing. And yeah, but the most part, like I told you, for the most part, you guys will be doing a lot of black box testing. Now, as you continue to be a tester, you start getting exposed to more and more uh, gray testing areas. For example, you probably get more affiliated with databases and know that okay, when someone uh, submit something, when someone sends something, I expect the record in the database. Then you go to the database, you're checking the database to make sure what that person put in is there and stuff like that. So that's where you grow up into as you continue to be a tester. So this is what I would like you guys to do today. Sorry, this coming week. Yeah. So all right. There's a question again. The summaries of the hand. Yeah, you're fine. I think you should do it.
So for the assignments, are we to
Do it
document it
physically. Just
or
play
should we
around with
just do it
stuff.
and then talk about it in the class
Document your
next week?
findings, and next week you like. I think I would like you guys to just present it. We just do something short. Just present what you tested. What was the black box testing area that you focused on? What was there any white box testing area, or how should you expect a developer to do the white box testing? Um, and maybe if you did some gray box testing, just share it with the class. Maybe everyone just gets like 5 minutes to do that, between 3 to 5 minutes, and that would be nice. That way we can share knowledge and we'll see what you did. All right. In view of time,
All right.
I have a whole summary I want to give you guys, but next week we're gonna do a whole summary of this whole chapter because we are moving to the next chapter from next week, which is also going to be very interesting for us. Um, but yeah, quite interesting stuff. The important thing I'm trying to do is, as much as possible, I'm trying to make you guys familiar with these terms: black box testing, white box testing, gray box testing, all this other stuff, SDLC. The most important thing for me is you guys have to be able to visualize it and see and know what it is about. You understand? Now, the theory, all this theory is nice because you have to do your exam. It also makes you more, yeah, it makes you know what you're doing exactly. But it's also important to really know it. So it's not only theory, it's so that, the way we learned when we're in school is we do a lot of theory but no practical. No, I want you guys to be able to visualize it, to know, let's play with it, let's test it. And if for some reason we do something that you understand, but you cannot see it in your mind, like, okay, how does this look like? Or how does this look like in real world? Please do not fail to ask because the thing about being in the tech space in most cases is what gets you paid is what you can do. That's just it. What you can do. What you know is fine, but what you can do. If they put you in a team, do you know what you need to do? Do you know? Yeah. When you're talking about black box testing, do you know what it is? Can you visualize? Do you understand what they're saying? So that's way more important than knowing definitions and stuff. Because I remember when I was younger, they just pump so much definitions in our head. What is the definition of this? What is the definition of that? And you know all those definitions off head, but you don't even really understand it or you don't know what it looks like. So, and that's not what I would like to do here. So, even in your spare time, if you're looking into something and it gets confusing, please speak up about it. And software testing, I think, is very interesting. um, yeah, and in most cases, as a software tester, when you've worked for a company between 3 to 6 months, you know so much about the software because you've been busy trying to break it and trying to find all kinds of errors. And yeah, I think it's quite interesting. So that's it. I will post. Okay, we have a question, guys. Justin. Yeah, I can send the slides.
Would we at any point be able to
Okay, I think
have
that's a good thing.
a
I've not been
slide
sharing the slides, right?
or no?
Okay, I'll send this whole slide to the group, as well as the one for the first chapter. All right, so you guys can look through it again. Let me even see. I'm gonna send that to the group. All right, so thank you guys for being here. Had a good one. And all of this stuff is going to keep getting interesting because we're going to go into practical. Like I said, I have real life applications that we're going to play with, we're going to test, we're going to do role plays. Some of you are going to be testers, some of you are going to be product owners, some of you are going to be, or I'm going to be product owner, but some of you are going to be analysts, some of you are going to play devs, and that way it'd be nice to play different characters of an agile team. So like this stuff. So we're gonna some of you. I know at least we have one dev in the team. If I can play some dev sometimes, you guys some will play QA, some of you will play a business analyst. That way, you know, we are going to delve into some real issues, and I think it's gonna be super super fun. And even what I plan to do, like I said, I'm rebranding Enket. You guys will probably have the chance to participate in building something that people are actually going to use. And you guys will test it. And yeah, you guys can put that in your resume if that is completely successful, and yeah, people can see and you say, oh, I was a software tester for this particular company or for this particular app and stuff. So I do promise to make it very very interesting and real hands-on. So and I'm excited about that part. I just can't wait to get there. But for now, I have to give you guys as much background knowledge as possible so that you guys will know what you're doing and be able to take what you have learned in theory to and be like, okay, that stuff I learned, that's actually now that I'm doing it, it makes sense now. Stuff like that. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. All right. I wish you guys a lovely weekend. Thanks for coming out, and see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye, guys. Bye.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.